I'll call the City Council meeting of April 26th to order. I'm going to ask Captain Williams if you would lead us in the pledge.
Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jennifer, will you please call a roll?
Councilmember Avila,
Here.
Councilmember Beaver,
Here.
Councilmember Thorpe,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Duncan,
Here.
Mayor Bogue.
Here. All right, so we do have a special presentation by Senator Ochoa Bogue's office, and I believe it's, I'm going to call up, is it Nick?
Do I have 3 minutes or? I want to be respectful of the public comment rules.
3 minutes is
3 minutes?
good. There
Okay.
you go.
Well, first, ladies and gentlemen, residents of Yucaipa, everyone watching live stream, and also mayor and city council member, thank you, and council members, council, thank you for having Sid and I here tonight. My name is Nick Calero. This is Sid Sonk. We're representatives of Senator Ochoa Bogue's office, and tonight we would like to present a resolution to Denise Allen for her years of service. Denise here this evening?
Denise, I know she's here. I saw her. Come on down, Denise. Yeah, Nick, are you gonna read the proclamation?
I'll read
or-
a little bit of it.
Okay.
Yeah. And so there's, I knew Denise prior, and when the senator asked me to come and present this resolution, I was happy to do so. But when I had a chance to look at her resume and write language for the resolution, I already had a profound respect for Denise, and just in the conversations we had in my past experience, and just hearing from members of the other council and the senator talk about Denise. But once reading the language and writing the resolution, it really drove home over the 16 years that Denise, 4 terms, Denise served on the city council. She displayed care for her community, exemplified strong leadership, reasonable leadership for her city that guided the city through a lot of expansion and a great opportunity. So what I'll do is I'll read some of the resolution, Denise, that way it's far more eloquent than I could pen. But whereas the Honorable Denise Allen is completing her 4th term on the Yucaipa City Council following 16 years of dedicated and responsible service, and it is appropriate at this time to highlight her numerous achievements and extend to her special recognition and commendation for her many fine public accomplishments. Whereas originally elected to the City Council on November 2nd, 2004, Denise Allen won re-election in 2008, 2012, and 2016. And she was selected by her fellow City Council members to serve as mayor of the City of Yucaipa from December 2012 to December 2014. Whereas Denise, her years on the City Council, shared her experiences and wise counsel as a member of the committees on American viticulture, area planning, Crafton Hills College facilities, economic development advisory, finance, healthy Yucaipa, youth advisory, and Yucaipa swim team, and ad hoc committees on the aquatic facility, city public facilities needs assessment, Yucaipa music and arts festival planning, and Yucaipa Performing Arts Center, and the City Council's ad hoc committee, and the Yucaipa-Calamasa Joint Unified School District. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a long and impressive list of achievements. I'll just read a couple more whereases. Whereas dedicated to ensuring the best interests of Yucaipa and supporting public safety, economic development, and aesthetic enhancement through the construction of public facilities, Denise Allen championed the historic uptown redevelopment improvements to drainage, streetscapes, alleyways, parking lots, and street lighting while laying the foundations for the design and construction of the Yucaipa Performing Arts Center. Whereas a major supporter of the local music and festival scene in Uptown Yucaipa, Denise Allen played an active role in creating the Uptown Crawl to enhance the city's nightlife. And having served on the first Music and Arts Festival Committee while she was mayor, she had served on every festival committee since then, including those for New Autumn Fest and Winterfest events. Whereas a retired professor who taught at Crafton Hills College and also served as president of the Yucaipa swim team for more than 10 years, Denise Allen was gratified to have helped with the completion of the Aquatic Center, the Olympic-sized swimming pool of Crafton Hills College, a collaborative project with the college and the city, and as a key member of its planning committee. She contributed to the design and construction process that was recognized for her efforts at its unveiling in 2014. Whereas, as a result of her tireless, hard work and unwavering commitment, Denise Allen has compiled an impressive record of personal and civic achievements, a record that has earned her the admiration and respect of those persons who have the privilege of associating with her. Now, therefore, be it resolved by Senator Rosalicier Ochoa Bogue that the Honorable Denise Allen be commended for her long and distinguished record of leadership as a member of the Yucaipa City Council, applaud for her exemplary public achievements, and extended a sincere best wishes for continued success in the future. Senator extends her most sincere appreciation, Denise. You are an exemplar of public service. Thank you. And so on behalf of Senator Ochoa Bogue, I'd like to present this California State Senate resolution to you.
Can we get our picture taken with you?
Does the council want to come down? Okay. Great. Inside.
I just want to say thank you. That was an honor, definitely an honor to serve. It was an amazing 16 years. I couldn't have done it without my fellow council members and the amazing collaboration that we had as a team. And the city staff is amazing. There's, I don't think, a better city staff in all of California, and that really does make a huge difference in one's ability to achieve amazing things for the community. And finally, the city and the members of this city, I said from the very first time that I ran that I loved this city, and the members of this community are amazing, and it's just really been fun watching this city grow and evolve, and I don't think you guys are done quite yet. And thank you for bringing back the festival. Thank you all.
Okay. On the count of three. 1, 2, 3. My wife teaches me I have to take it from above. 1, 2, 3. Zoom in just a little bit. 1, 2, 3. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, so that's going to take us to public comment. I do have a number of speakers. I'm going to start off with Donna Snodgrass. And then after Donna Snodgrass would be Ray Snodgrass. For the record, you do have 3 minutes.
Thank you. May I take?
Yes.
Thank you. Honorable Mayor and council members, I'm Donna Snodgrass, Vice President, Yucaipa Valley Wine Alliance, 10345 Walnut Grove Court. I'm here tonight to voice my disappointment in the process of the AVA Planning Committee and the Phase 1 report. After reviewing numerous documents from both the city and the state, it is apparent to me there was a predetermined outcome for this matter. There are simply too many inconsistencies in the material, and it appears the committee was or is a smokescreen for something else. While I'm not allowed the time to talk about all the inconsistencies, I've mentioned some of them. 1, why did the representative for District 1 recuse himself from all discussions on the AVA PC and report? We were told, quote, the project is within 500 feet of his residence, and he could potentially benefit from the decision, from the project. So what project? The AVA designation is over 30,000 acres, which includes the entire city of Yucaipa. This same logic would apply to all of you. So you would all need to recuse yourselves, unless there's another undisclosed project being worked on, like, I don't know, a housing project up there. 2, I've read the Phase 1 report. No, wait, I've read both Phase 1 reports. Are you aware that there are 2 different reports? One was presented during the workshop here last January, and another dated a week later to the Department of Conservation. They are materially different. 3, while reading minutes from the AVA PC meetings, I noticed that each time the subject of viticulture was actually brought up, other than visioning or a token presentation, the mediator or city staff expertly steered it away and back to housing. Viticulture was never seriously explored in any meeting. In fact, a letter from PlaceWorks referencing the agreement between them and the city states, we will coordinate with you before meeting with the committee to strategize on desired outcomes to tailor the agenda and materials needed. 4, a letter from the Department of Conservation to the city includes this statement: the project must include reduction or avoidance of greenhouse gas emissions. Similar statements were found in other communications, including City Resolution 2019-38. This resolution also includes protect agricultural lands, yet not one mention of this is in the Phase 1 report. Cluster housing, I don't think, meets this requirement. 5, it was odd that the AVA PC did not receive a copy of the report in time to review it before it was presented to the City Council. There was plenty of time. The inconsistencies in these reports and all the documents in front of me now need to be discussed publicly and in depth before any further action is taken on this endeavor. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Ray Snodgrass. And then after Ray, we'll have Preston Todd.
Glasses and masks don't work. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. Ray Snodgrass, 10345 Walnut Grove Court. I reviewed many documents relative to the city's AVA Planning Committee. September 12, 2019, in the agenda report to the city's RFP, the statement, quote, other development-related elements to be considered in the first phase of the project are the use of cluster-type developments, transfer of density rights within the subregion, and no net loss dwelling unit impacts to ensure compliance with housing law, end quote. In the proposal from PlaceWorks, it states in part, quote, in addition, a no net dwelling unit loss element, including a potential transfer of density rights within the subregion or cluster development provisions would be included to ensure that future agricultural operations do not interfere with the city's housing production operations, end quote. These statements set the tone of the Phase 1 project, housing over agriculture. May 19, 2020, after an Alliance presentation to the AVAPC, the Alliance representative requested time at a later date to provide part 2 of the presentation. The city manager intervened stating, quote, "Official studies are prepared by professional firms and reviewed by staff for city use. Sheila Cedarval, under her scope of work, will be executing other study elements," end quote. The professional services agreement for the 6th cycle housing element commingles the housing element with the vinification process, thus creating a sense of confusion with the work of the AVAPC. Some say it will take decades to see the positive economic results of vineyards and wineries. Not true. Benefits are realized when each project starts from planning, installing infrastructure, planting, maintenance, and the ultimate harvesting and processing of the end product. Please honor the terms of the partnership between the Alliance and the city. Work toward the creation of a workable commercial overlay that incorporates the ability of property owners to invest in the future of the community, bolstering the economy and adding employment. Let's keep this process positive, not divisive. Thank you.
All right, Preston Todd. And after Preston Todd will be Caesar Ralden, I want to say.
Good evening, council members. My name is Preston Todd. I live at 9677 Yucaipa Ridge Road. My wife and I own and operate North Cork Vineyard and Winery, which is located on 40 acres on the North Bench. We are the largest and most established vineyard in Yucaipa Valley. We are also founding members of the Yucaipa Valley Wine Alliance, whose primary focus is to promote vineyard development and tourism to preserve Yucaipa's unique rural qualities and history. Our property has been referenced in the Phase 1 AVAPC report commissioned by the AVAPC Council, in which the majority is chaired by realtors and developers, and oddly not Yucaipa's vineyard and winery representatives. The report mentions that I was one of the stakeholders interviewed at the beginning of Phase 1. However, the 5-minute interview was conducted via phone by someone from Orange County who never visited our establishment. The input I gave during the brief interview was completely disregarded, and it is apparent to me that the agenda is to push forward, it's to promote housing development, concrete, and asphalt, not rural Yucaipa, not vineyard development. I don't think it's in the best interest of Yucaipa or its residents for the AVAPC Council to represent land developers benefiting from Yucaipa sales or those who do not live in Yucaipa over the actual citizens of Yucaipa. Thank you for your time and consideration in hearing the concerns of a Yucaipa resident and a business owner.
All right, Caesar Roldan. And after Caesar, we'll have Bill Tilbury.
Good evening, council members. Caesar Roldan, 11727 Pendleton Road. I'm the other property owner that was mentioned during the Phase 2 of the AVAPC. And just like Preston, my thoughts and visions were actually misrepresented and actually not even considered or included. It seems like apparently being interviewed is not the same as having an actual input. We've been very busy installing large and small vineyards all throughout Yucaipa and Redlands. I currently own 48 acres, a 48-acre vineyard that is currently planted with 4 different varietals, and we are expanding every plant season. From the very beginning, I attended the AVAPC meetings and watched how the discussions were always skillfully moved away and steered away from viticulture and the overlay and moved straight into conversations of housing. Other than Craig Souveg, there was no other outside viticultural experts involved in these meetings. Even the Alliance representative was boldly told, why should the, and I quote, why should the board consider anything the Alliance has to say? It was apparent that the residents, landowners, or vineyard owners had no influence over the efforts either. Even when I was interviewed, the interview just seemed so like a simple formality. And none of the consultants of the firm ever visited our property, came to visually comprehend what the vision of Yucaipa is. And to be honest, this whole process has really just been disappointing. What should have been an effort, or what should be an effort to support a wine industry in Yucaipa, has become a disguised effort to reduce the lot sizes for more housing. I am requesting that this body give the whole thing another, more thorough and well-rounded review. And this time, please invite industry experts in the field of viticulture so that we can successfully incorporate vineyards with housing. Not like this half-done effort to appease developers and real estate agents, but instead to clearly provide a vision that this city administration clearly is lacking right now. Thank you very much.
Bill Tilbury, and then after Bill will be Craig Souveg.
Good evening, Councilman. I basically came up here to share a little bit of a vision that I've got for Yucaipa. I moved here 2 years ago from San Dimas, and I watched that city go from 40% developed to 100% developed in about 10 years. I watched these houses pop up like mushrooms. I watched the traffic go from nothing to where you could barely cross the street. I don't want to see that necessarily here at Yucaipa. I know we have requirements that we have to go through. But I also know that there's backfill that we can utilize that's closer to the freeway as opposed to the opposite side of Yucaipa, to where they have traffic flowing from one end to the other. I'd also have a vision of Yucaipa, of having a nice place to live, having a place to where on the weekends, I can look to my wife and say, let's go here, let's go there, rather than to Redlands or someplace else. I see a development of wine industry where outside dollars would come here to Yucaipa. I see little boutique places. I see benefits to the businesses that are already here, and also new businesses coming in to where we'd have a larger revenue. I think it's all possible as long as we all get together and really push for it. We've already talked about developers and real estate and all of that stuff, and where it would benefit far fewer than what it would if we had a wine industry. But even so, developers and real estate agents, once this AVA gets through, once everything happens, even the lower areas, they'll go up. The AVA will cause it all to go up. If we have a beautiful place to live and we're able to utilize that North Bench as an agricultural area, as a place that draws people, our houses will increase. Everybody is going to win. So, bottom line is, I want to see us nurture the golden goose that we have up there and not have it for dinner. So that's about all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Craig Souveg, and then after Craig will be Chris Markarian.
Chris Markarian is here to speak on item number 5.
Oh, okay.
City Council, Craig Souveg, 37296 Ironwood Drive. I appear before you on behalf of the Yucaipa Valley Wine Alliance and in my capacity as president to address the AVAPC. It is frustrating and embarrassing to serve on this sham committee composed of unqualified members whose sole purpose is to advance the city's objective of satisfying state-mandated housing laws. The very name AVAPC is grossly misleading. My experience serving on this board since onset has involved little more than a discussion of various proposed housing scenarios and not about the vinification of land or the development of a wine industry. The city has managed to commingle and confuse the concepts of viticulture and housing by using the AVAPC as a smokescreen in order to establish clustered residential housing within the proposed overlay district and supported by the biased opinion of its members, of which half are real estate developers and/or real estate agents. The concept of vinification, when presented at the AVAPC meetings, is largely opposed. At the very first meeting on February 11, 2020, board member Christine Moeller disrespectfully commented to me, "Why should the board consider anything the Alliance has to say?" The Alliance presented at the May 19, 2020 meeting on the topic of viniculture and had to grovel for a second presentation to complete its subject matter with opposition from several board members and City Manager Ray Casey, who, to my knowledge, is not a committee member. At that May 19 meeting, Ray Casey talked about official studies being prepared by professional firms and reviewed by staff for city use, and that Sheila Sertival would be executing other studies under her scope of work per Ray Casey. No third-party professional wine industry advice has ever been obtained, despite the Alliance's recommendation. In fact, the Alliance crafted a fourth laissez-faire alternative in conjunction with guidance from PlaceWorks, which was never even presented to City Council at your meeting on January 27, 2021. This effort at censorship defeats the purpose of which the AVAPC was created and obstructs the dissemination of relevant information necessary to making educated decisions. Especially appalling is Section 1.3 of the PlaceWorks contract dated January 8, 2020, which sets forth, quote, "We will coordinate with you before meeting to strategize on desired outcomes and to tailor the agenda and materials needed to ensure a successful meeting that advances the goals of the AVAPC," end quote. Indeed, AVAPC meetings are outcome predetermined and the subject matter constantly redirected by Ben Matlock, the board, and consultants from viticulture to predestined housing.
Thanks, Craig. All right, so Ray, should we, are there any changes to the agenda that we need to?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we did circulate a slight change to the minutes of the agenda. They're available in the back of the room as well. So I would recommend that you approve with your amended minutes today with your motion.
All right, so there are amendments to the meeting minutes. Okay, so with that, are there any items that one wishes to remove from the consent agenda? If not, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda items
I'll second.
Is that with the amended minutes?
with the amended minutes from the last meeting.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so that takes us to mayor and council member business. Is there anything that any council member wishes to speak about?
Yes, sir.
Justin?
Based on the number of speakers and the content, I submit that there appears to be some inconsistencies or even perceived inconsistencies found by members of our community. At the very least, I would like to slow things down as it relates to the AVAPC phases so that I and the rest of the council may become more familiar with this project, as many of the decisions on this project were made before I even announced my candidacy for this council. I believe the speakers have established compelling arguments on the matter and propose this topic return to council to determine if the AVA designation and the AVAPC and Yucaipa are being considered sole and separate of one another, while considering the benefit of a commercial overlay, which will allow for the boutique wineries spoke of by the members of this community, of whom we swore to represent. On the February 22nd meeting, I made clear my desire to protect agriculture on the North Bench through this AVAPC process. And with that, I'll submit, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Anything else?
Is this the appropriate time to comment about that, or?
Well, if we want to bring it back, we can look at it if we have a majority of the council who says that we should. You guys want to look at it again? I know this was something that was just brought up and we had this discussion. I think it seems to me like the issue is cluster housing. I know we just recently voted and I'm not sure, but I think it was a 5-0 vote. But I'm open to looking at it again if you want.
I would move that it come back before council for a more in-depth discussion, because I actually don't, from what I'm hearing, don't think it's about cluster housing. I think it's a bigger issue of the AVA designation by the federal government, a housing element as it relates to RENA, and a commercial overlay. I think there's three separate parts that need to be analyzed and discussed to make sure that we are moving forward with the intent of the community.
I'm okay with that. You guys okay with that?
Well, I'd like to clarify something publicly. There's a huge difference between the AVA application, which we really didn't participate in. That was something that was done by the Wine Alliance. Is that correct?
That's correct. The council approved some support for that. At the end of the day, there wasn't a whole lot of support required. It was done by the Wine Alliance.
And the meetings that we had, phase one, all the meetings that we had were in reference to a vineyard overlay district specifically by the city of Yucaipa, right?
Yes, the committee, by the way, included a makeup of 3 Wine Alliance members, decided to focus its attention on a greater North Bench area, even though the AVA application includes the entire community and parts of other communities. The focus became more about the North Bench area, and that was ultimately where the committee made the recommendation to City Council.
And I will tell you straight up that I don't agree with the comments that were made here by you folks tonight at all. I attended the lion's share of those meetings, and clustered housing was just one meeting that we had, but the rest of it was a complete overview of the wine industry, grapes, vineyards. I remember one meeting where the whole clustered housing thing was discussed, but other than that, every meeting that I attend, which was conducted by PlaceWorks, and Craig and Devin had a lot of airtime to talk about exactly what they said we didn't talk about tonight. I don't agree with the comments made here at all tonight. I think that I was there.
Sure.
I listened very carefully. I learned a lot. Yeah. And I don't agree that it was about housing and clustered housing. That was one meeting. The rest of it was about the wine industry. In fact, we went to Temecula. We had a road trip, and before we even started the meetings and before we signed the deal with PlaceWorks. So I don't really know if we need to bring it back to council or not. I'm not opposed to doing that. I'm not sure what we're trying to achieve.
David, do you have anything?
No, I don't.
Is it something you would want to bring back, or?
I don't mind.
Okay. I'm always up to looking at something again.
I don't
John?
mind bringing it back. I support that.
Okay. Are we okay with that?
We are.
Why are we bringing it back? What are we bringing back?
I wasn't present for several of those meetings, sir, and I wasn't present for those meetings. That was prior to my time on, and since these decisions are being made, appear to affect a large number of our Yucaipa, I'd like to be more informed on the matter.
Well, at this point, I'm not sure of any specific project. We keep talking about a project. Is there a project in the works that I don't know of?
Well,
Ray, do you know of anything?
No, at this point, what council has reviewed is the phase 1 study that included some land use options, land use discussions. The preference was made by the committee and then by the council. But one option, I guess, if council wishes to have this heard again, is to kind of go through a summary of the committee meetings and the results of those committee meetings. Perhaps you want to have some of the committee members here as well, culminating in the phase 1 study and the recommendation that was made to council. And in response to Councilmember Beaver's point, well taken, that some of those discussions certainly happened at the committee level long before you were on council, or Councilmember Thorpe was on the council. And so I think it would be an opportunity to kind of go over that history of the issues, the content that was presented to the committee first and culminating in that phase 1 study presented to the council at the end. So if that's the direction, we're happy to do that, and I would suggest that perhaps committee members that were involved along the way be invited to participate as well, so.
I'm not opposed to
I
that.
also think property owners, I mean, what we're discussing is private property. I mean, I know
And those
this,
folks
I know
have a
this
vested
is
right, that's
a
correct.
tough one for many to get, but people do own those properties, and we're talking about rezoning them and redesignating their land use. So I think, considering they're the main landholders, I think they need to be involved.
Yep, I agree.
And I'm not opposed at all. I respect the fact that you weren't there and John wasn't there. And I'm not opposed at all to us going back and revisiting that. I'm just a little bit confused altogether because I was there and I was on that ad hoc committee. I listened. I didn't make a whole lot of comments, but I heard a lot of comments and I learned a lot. But again, the clustered housing thing was just one meeting as far as I can recall. Now, I may be wrong because I am getting old and I forget. But it was a good phase one. And I was very happy with the way phase one turned out. And then phase two, we're going to get ready and draft up the overlay. Is that right?
Yeah, we're working on it now. We could come back, probably not the next meeting, the following meeting, if that's okay with council. And part of this effort is continuing information, and so we'd like to continue that, but for the community. But we'll come back in 2 meetings, a date certain, if that's okay with council.
Yeah.
I think that's fine.
Okay. All right, so that takes us to item number 4, which is the Youth Advisory Committee appointee. I believe this is Sarah.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I am here this evening as the staff liaison for the Youth Advisory Committee to recommend the appointment of Mr. Chase Miller to the committee. The committee continues to serve as an advisory body to youth, the Yucaipa City Council, with the intent to improve youth involvement in city issues, activities, and provide committee members a roadmap for success. So in relation to Chase, Chase is an 8th grader at Inland Leaders Charter School and also a Yucaipa resident. He has an impressive 4.0 GPA and enjoys many different sports, especially pickleball. So Chase is also passionate about community service. He wants to make a difference in our Yucaipa community. Before applying for the committee, he and his sister, who is also on the committee presently, conducted a food drive for Yucaipa residents. He has been eager to join the committee and had to wait until he recently turned 14, but he did attend several meetings before doing so. The committee is pleased to recommend appointment to the committee. The Youth Advisory Committee members will continue to recruit for the remaining at-large vacant positions. There is no fiscal impact as a result of this action. Chase Miller is being recommended for a 2-year appointment effective today through September 1st, 2022. At this time, I invite Chase to say a few words, after which we'll conclude our presentation, and staff are available for any questions.
My name is Chase Miller, and thank you for considering me for the Youth Advisory Board. And I'm looking forward to learning about local government and seeing how our city is run. And I'm also excited to learn and serve in our community. Thank you.
All right, well. Welcome, Chase, and we're going to go ahead and let's take the vote, and then we're going to ask to come down and take a picture with you. Is that okay?
Is he the youngest nominee so far at 8th grader?
All right.
That's very impressive.
Very cool.
Very, very impressive.
Really just turned 14 at the beginning of April, and I believe I received his application the day after he turned 14.
I move to appoint Chase.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve Chase to the Youth Advisory Committee. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. You guys need to come.
I'm not in the picture. I have nothing to do with it. We're good.
All right, so that's going to take us to agenda item number 5. I believe this is Jennifer.
Yes.
Actually, if I may, just briefly, before Ms. Crawford gives her report, I just wanted to speak, Councilmember Avila and I spoke earlier today about a couple items, components of this item. The first is the Rotary Club application, and Councilman Avila serves on the board of that organization at present. Under the Government Code, Section 1091.5A8. That role as a board member on a nonprofit tax-exempt organization that supports the primary functions of the city, which Rotary clubs have been found to do, is considered a non-interest, so Councilmember Avila is free to participate in that matter. In addition, with respect to the report from the Chamber of Commerce, Councilmember Avila will not participate and abstain from the report aspect on the chamber because of his interest in the compensation of his wife, who is an employee of the chamber.
All right, so should we discuss the chamber first?
I don't, unless there's specific conversation about that item, I don't think we need to do that on this. If there's a specific conversation at that point, I would ask Councilmember Avila to leave the room. But if
Okay.
there's no specific conversation about that, I don't think that's necessary here.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council. As depicted in the report, the city has received 2 community activity grant applications for the current fiscal year for in-kind support from Al-Anon family groups requesting the use of the community center to hold their meetings, and one from the Rotary Club to use the Yucaipa Nutrition Site to use that facility to hold their weekly meetings. In addition, you have 4 accountability reports before you this evening as part of the wrap-up items. The recommendation is that you deem the program requirements complete for the 4 agencies that submitted their accountability reports, and that you review and consider the 2 grants that are in kind before you this evening. That's all I have, unless you have any questions for me.
Are there any questions for staff?
And then just note, Chris Markarian would like to speak on public comment.
Well, let's call down Chris. Chris, come on down.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, staff. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come and thank you as a Rotarian in our town. I've been very proud to serve as a volunteer and as a I'm the president-elect for the Rotary Club of Yucaipa, so God help us. I'll be the president next year for the club, who that does a lot for our city. And we are moving our location for COVID compliance primarily, as I am the youngest, I believe, in the Rotary Club. So most of us are more experienced individuals, like our Councilman Avila. There are a few reasons why we chose and would love the opportunity to have our weekly meetings at the Nutrition Center. We used to meet at a restaurant where a meal was served. Some of the consideration now is we're going to forego the meals during the meeting to encourage some of our Rotarians to come out and mingle and meet and socialize, to bring back some life into the club, which has done so much for the city and its community. We have, other than the Christmas parade that we skipped out on this last year, obviously we're involved in a lot of events, including the upcoming that we're looking forward to, the Music and Arts Festival. The primary contribution for the Rotary Club has been to scholarship to our students, whether they're in elementary, high school, or college level. As you may well be aware that the Rotary Club is the largest non-government organization in the world, and I believe it's the largest service and volunteer organization in our city. So I would greatly appreciate your support for this in-kind donation. I believe I was told that this will only last for a few months until the end of this fiscal year, and I look forward to coming back and seeing how well it works, because we are trying to do a hybrid meeting. So this is a nice space for us to space out and have social distance while using the very generous CERT-contributed big screen TV with a laptop, so other members that don't feel comfortable or safe or unable to attend the meeting have the option to Zoom in and participate in the meeting that way. So that's all. Thank you so much for all you do. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Chris. All right, so we actually have 3 different items. Can I break it down into the 3? So let's just start off with item number 1, which is accept the past 2020 applications. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve item number 1.
All right, we have a motion.
I'll
for item
second.
1. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so let's drop down.
And I must say, I need to abstain on the Chamber of Commerce.
Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and jump down to item number 3, which is the application submitted by the Rotary Club for 962 in-kind.
I'll move approval of item number 3.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so that takes us to the item number 2, which is the Community Activity Grant application for Al-Nanon, what is it? Requesting $285 for in-kind support. And now this, I believe this one is from outside the area. Is that correct, Jennifer?
It is a local chapter that
The only question I have is, does it serve the people in Yucaipa, or is this serving people outside?
Typically, Al-Anon is a support mechanism for folks, families that are affected by alcoholism, and it would be serving the community that it's held in, typically.
Is there a representative from Al-Anon who's here tonight to explain that? Because that was my question also. I saw that the home address was in Colton, and it's not clear that it serves just Yucaipians, or if it serves Yucaipa, Calamasa, Mentone, and I was hoping that maybe we can get that cleared up a little bit.
is that on there? Right here. It's on page 54 of their application. It states that 15+ residents from Yucaipa. Am I missing the wrong page?
Well, I would support it if it is supporting Yucaipa. I mean, that's how we support the FSA.
It does say that it supports 15+ member residents of the city of Yucaipa on their application.
Okay, then I would be okay with that then.
I'll move to.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so passes 5-0. All right, so that takes us to possible action on pending legislation. Is there anything that you have, Ray?
I do this evening, Mr. Mayor. I have several items, and several items out of a list of dozens of items dealing with housing at the state level.
Well, you have some representatives here that they may want to listen to.
Well, I'm sure they, I don't want to speak for them. I'm guessing they might agree with some of what I'm about to say. The first item is SB 621. This is an item that was taken up by the League of Cities Housing and Economic Development Committee that I'm a member of. And it was voted down in terms of even recommending with changes or revisions, which is a little unusual, but that's what happened. This measure would require local government to ministerially approve a development application to convert a non-residential hotel or motel into multifamily housing for the purposes of housing homeless folks. These units could be for rent or sale, so I guess I can't say it's exclusively for housing homeless folks. It's for rent or sale, and only 20% would be affordable. So it's not for homeless purposes. It's for affordable housing essentially. But it's a ministerial action, which means that council or planning commission wouldn't have the opportunity to weigh in on it. AB 115 is a requirement that local governments allow housing developments in all commercial zones, not just some commercial zones, all commercial zones, as long as the house development set aside at least 20% of the total number of units for affordable housing. Next item is AB 215. This measure would require cities to have a mid-cycle housing element consultation with Department of Housing and Community Development. If housing production is below the regional average, require cities to amend their laws so as to attain HCD's pro-housing designation. If housing production is substantially below the regional average, and allow the Attorney General, the State Attorney General, to enforce violations of the Housing Crisis Act of 2019. So I only point out those as examples out of many, many housing legislation efforts that are out there, and the one that was presented to the League of Cities Housing and Economic Development Committee. But these are things that are happening at the state level. These are things that every day are being discussed at the state level. And sometimes we get painted as folks that are crying wolf, if you will, or folks that are certainly crying about some of this stuff. But it's real. These are real pieces of legislation, some of which have I don't think the first one, but some of which have a pretty good chance of passing. So these housing requirements, these state housing requirements, are in front of us. We're going to be dealing with them for the next 8 years, even after the housing element is adopted by City Council. State is going to be reviewing the implementation every year, annually. And at the mid-cycle, after 4 years, if we're not meeting their goals, they will implement penalties, I believe, and implement a situation where the City Council may lose some control over the process. So I just wanted to share some of that with you this evening. And it's the time of year when League of Cities sends out all the bills that are coming out of committee and moving into legislation. And I'm just amazed at how many of these are taking away local control. And I am absolutely positive that some of those are going to pass. So just for the record.
All right, seems like a weekly discussion that we have. There's also a bill I don't know what the designation is, but I know we have an agenda item on here that's for the purchase of LPR systems, but there's a bill coming down that will limit the sheriff's capacity and law enforcement's capacity to actually use that data. They're trying to restrict the ability to even use the data to solve crime.
And
so
keep
that's one I think we need to oppose.
Yeah, and keep it for more than 24 hours unless it's subject to a criminal case. So.
Right.
Ray, when do we have to, as a city, get our housing element approved by the state? Isn't it the end of May?
October.
October, I'm sorry. Okay, so we do
September or
have some
October.
time.
October.
Okay. But it has to be not just approved by the city council, but approved by HCD,
Yeah,
yes.
and which typically takes some time.
Yeah,
Typically
so we
go
need
through
to
several iterations.
get that buttoned up and sent over there. I'd rather be there soon because it'll come back for some reason.
Well, staff received pretty clear direction from our last council meeting, that study session, so we're working away, the consultant is working away on the the draft housing element to bring back to council. Probably be first meeting in June is my best guess at this point, but I think we really appreciate the clear direction that we got, among some pretty tough choices. So really appreciate the clear direction we got in the last meeting.
All right, so anything else? Are we good? So moving on to department reports, let's move to item number 6. This is Jennifer, the Animal Services Contract.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. This item before you this evening is for the Animal Control Services for fiscal year 21-22. These services are provided by the Animal Care and Control Division of San Bernardino County Public Health. This amendment addresses the shelter, field, and canvassing services that they provide for us. The current agreement for the service expires on June 30th, 2021. The cost for the service provided in the proposed agreement before you tonight will remain the same as the current fiscal year. The county is maintaining the current contract rate for animal control services based on the fact that sufficient contingencies exist in the current contract amount to cover potential cost. And to note, the city only pays for actual costs incurred for all the services conducted by animal control in our community. And we also note that the net contract cost for each of the past 5 years equaled an average of $263,000 per year. Historically, actual annual costs have remained below the annual contract amount. The recommendation before you this evening is that you approve and authorize the mayor to execute Amendment Number 9 to the County of San Bernardino Department of Public Health contract for the provision of animal care and control sheltering and canvassing services for the upcoming fiscal year in an amount not to exceed $542,077. I'd like to note also, we do have canvassing in there. However, this past year with COVID, we did not implement canvassing, so we were not charged for that service. And until we come out of the tiers and the county animal control is comfortable going back to door, we will not implement canvassing until they are comfortable and we are comfortable for the community. I'd also like to note Brian Cronin, he is the Director of Animal Control, is here this evening. If you have any additional questions for him.
All right. So are there any, Brian, do you have anything you'd like to say, or you?
Just thank you, Mayor, members of the council. It's our pleasure to serve the residents of your community. We work aggressively to try to maintain the cost to your taxpayers as it relates to maintaining service levels. One of the factors that allowed us to keep the contract cost also at this level was due to the fact the number of calls for service and the number of animals served has been somewhat stable from your community. So we have not seen a significant increase in the number of calls for service or number of animals impounded. With that, I'm here to answer any questions you may have, and just to encourage residents to please remember to license their pets, spay and neuter their pets, and please keep their pets at home on a leash and be a responsible pet owner.
All right, good advice. All right, any questions or comments for staff? Bob, you have
I have
something?
a question of our police department. Have we seen an appropriate response time when deputies request animal control's response? Should there be any animal emergencies, stray animals or bites? Is there anything that you can comment on that matter, Captain?
Yes, we work very well with county animal control, and their responses are always appropriate and timely.
Thank you.
All right. Go ahead.
I'd just like to say that I have called animal control about stray cats in my neighborhood. I've got more cats in my neighborhood than the whole city has, I think. They all live there. And you guys have always done a fantastic job, and I just got nothing but praise for animal control. So thank you very much.
Thank you, council member.
All right, so with that, is there a motion to approve?
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so that takes us to item number 7. I believe this is Chief Malinowski. It's our Fire Department Annual Report.
Evening, Mayor, council members. All right, so annual report for the fire department two newer council members who haven't been subject to this before, so just kind of a good recap of our year, the annual report, call stats and all that. And then we post it to the city's website so the public can see it too. So this is actually from the first couple, an hour or two with the El Dorado fire in Yucaipa. So that's actually our engine crew 3 doing a structured offense on that structure, which they did save. So don't want to kill you by death by PowerPoint, but I would like to read the chief's message that we post. So the Yucaipa Fire and Paramedic Department strives to provide the highest level of life safety services to the residents and the visitors of the city of Yucaipa. I'm honored to serve as the city's fire chief, and I couldn't be more proud of the men and women of the Yucaipa Fire Department and Paramedic Department who mitigate all emergency types 21 times a day. Last year was 22 times a day. But while providing excellent customer service to the public we protect, I constantly look to improve the level of service we provide to meet the future needs of the city and to be a valued part of the community we serve. 2020 did prove to be a tremendous challenge, but also showed the strength and resilience of the citizens of Yucaipa and its fire department. So just the organizational chart. So this is all old hat to you guys, but we work for you. I work for Ray. Ray works for you. And that's our kind of breakdown for the organizational chart. The 3 stations are staffed, and then we have a reserve station up in Oak Glen, which is unstaffed, and we have that later. All right, breakdown of personnel. So we did transition from a state-funded battalion chief to my job turned into a city-funded battalion chief with the new contract in July. So we do fund a battalion chief, a captain, captain paramedic, 6 engineer, engineer paramedic, and 7 firefighter paramedics. And we do operate a 25-person reserve firefighter program that is a stepping stone, so it's constantly revolving. But we're around 15 to 20 pretty much at all times. So we do have 2 dispatch comm operators, and then the 3 stations, which you guys are aware. Just to recap, kind of put it in perspective, almost a little over 28 square miles that we protect, 55,000 residents. And when you look at property values here in Yucaipa, we're protecting over $5 billion of assets having that fire equipment in place every single day. So insurance, service, organization ratings, all that stuff. So just some good photos from last year. That was one of the grant items. We literally used them the week after we put them in service. They're some rescue struts that hold stuff in place. They're pretty trick, and we used them like literally the next week after training. And just some good customer maintenance after we sent somebody to the hospital finishing the yard work there. So citywide responses, we ran 7,636 calls last year. In the next slide, I'll show you the reduction. We did have an increase of about 20 seconds in response time, and that was due to COVID. So due to PPE we had to wear, gowns, all that stuff, and then decon too. So as the engines were getting pinged for another call, just the decon all the equipment was much more than we'd ever done before. So, and then just kind of darn photographic memory, you'd ask last year about what percentage of medical aids we ran. So that actually went down quite a bit now. So we actually ran 69% medical aids in 2020 versus previous years. So we were, old Yucaipa like up in that 80%, and we've gone down to now less than 70%. And this is kind of our trend. So 2019 we did run 8,297 calls. Last year we ran 7,636, so that drop was definitely due to COVID. Prior to COVID, January, February, we showed about a 10% increase, and then November, December, we showed an increase over 2019, but really that, March, April, nobody wanted to call 911, nobody wanted to see us because we had the Ronas ourselves. So. Fire Station 1, this is the Apple fire, as they're firing out in Banning, pretty good picture. Folks were up there. This is actually when we were reintroducing the repop, so repopulation of Oak Glen, since that's our fire department service area. Yucaipa Fire Department was up there, still doing patrols and reintroducing the public once we lifted evacuation orders. And there's kind of our breakdown of personnel and equipment at that station. So we do house the paramedic engine 551 pictured right there, the rescue UTV, the side-by-side, And then we have 2 CAL FIRE frontline engines during peak. Right now there's 1. They just went to full staffing on Monday, and then mid-May we'll get the second engine. So they ran 2,513 calls. Excellent. Station 2, so they have the medic engine, the brush engine, which had a pretty busy year this last year. And then we run one of our reserve engines out there. This is Pine Bench Road up in Oak Glen. And myself and our Yucaipa equipment fired that to finally get that fire off the north end of Oak Glen and away from the camp for the second time. So Station 2 is our slower station. They ran just under 1,700 calls for the year. And Station 3, which is myself, this is our new engine, so it should be like literally on the road any day now. So is consistent with the other 2 engines. It's a little prettier, but some graphics changes. And then we also have a reserve engine there as well, and then our fire department utility. And they're the busiest station by far. They're running 3,400 calls a year. Last year was closer to that 4,000 range. And then for myself, I'm the busiest battalion chief out of like our San Bernardino unit. So the Yucaipa battalion calls were 500 calls, 501. It was a little more last year, like 510, 511. And that's just for Yucaipa responses, nothing else. Not including myself, but any battalion chief response. And that's not in the call volume. So I'm a second responder. I'm not a first responder, kind of. Probably a first responder.
What triggers that call?
Probably a first responder. So we do run the reserve program. Last year, kind of for the new council members' benefit, we did transition it to a reserve internship with the Victor Valley College. We tried to do it with Crafton, just they didn't have that kind of setup for it. They weren't able to do that, so we're actually doing a training kind of grant reimbursement with Crafton for the full-time staff. So we do have a different program, but with Crafton Hills College, we obviously tremendously support them. But now they carry all the liability. We don't run we don't run medicals. The college does that. We don't run any liability, workman's comp, gear, about $150,000 of revolving equipment to have those reserves. All goes through the college now. So huge benefit for us and getting those new guys trained new guys and gals who are gonna, right now we're doing firefighter 1 hiring. A ton of those reserves got jobs with us and other departments. So it's a good stepping stone of folks coming right out of Crafton Hills College that live here in Yucaipa, and they're going and getting jobs in the service. So we do run the Oak Glen contract. They got their money's worth this year. So we have a contract with the San Bernardino County to provide fire services and paramedic services to Oak Glen. It's not an inclusive contract. We just provide fire and life safety services. We don't do fire prevention, permitting, any of that kind of other ancillary stuff that's handled by county and their land use planning and all that. We do run a volunteer station up there. Very hard to get individuals to volunteer and staff up there. But one thing I did note, as calls dropped this last year, for whatever reason, Oak Glen's been getting busier. We actually ran more calls last year, by about 26 calls, probably 30% increase in Oak Glen than the previous year. So, and then we do have a brush patrol up there when we can staff it, and then we do have some other equipment available through the county to staff if we can get more folks to volunteer. So automatic mutual aid, it's huge. We provide automatic mutual aid. You need to do that to get state and federal funding, grant reimbursement, stuff like that. And if we don't participate, we don't get mutual aid and automatic aid. And we cashed our chips in this year for sure. So we do have automatic and mutual aid agreements with the CAL FIRE San Bernardino, CAL FIRE Riverside and Riverside County, Highland Fire Department, Calamasa Fire Department, Redlands Fire Department, San Bernardino County Fire Department, and the Forest Service. And these are all like resources. So when we say, we're giving them like resources and vice versa, so we're providing that to them as well. Training, so training's huge. I mean, these guys are jack of all trades. You call the fire department, it's not one focus. You go to podiatrist for your foot, you call us for just literally anything. So they don't know, they call the fire department. So these guys are constantly training, try to be master of all trades. So this is the folks actually out cutting some hazard fuel reduction training in our Pendleton Wash corridor. So some of the increased level of services we did last year was hard with COVID, just to expand anything, get folks together to even train. But 2 things we did add at council, we demonstrated the auto pulse. What's one thing I wanted to bring up? Doing that auto pulse high performance CPR with COVID, we went from about 3 to 4 cardiac arrests a week. We do about 11 to 12 a month. We went double that. But last year we had, I just had the number on my head, but I want to say it was 48 ROSC. So that means return of spontaneous circulation. So it's literally we go out to somebody, no pulse, not breathing, and we're doing almost one a week where we're getting people literally vitals back as we go to the hospital. And a lot of those were actually, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to walk out of the hospital, but of that, we had a pretty high percentage we were taking, to the cardiac catheter lab, and they were actually walking out of the hospital. So we try to get those people to come down and, maybe say hello at council or the fire guys, but they don't.
And of those 48, they all used this machine
Yeah.
here?
This thing was tremendous in our achieving ROSC. Absolutely. Day one, once we put this in there, it was some of the best money, dollar for dollar, that we could have spent on the paramedic program. Absolutely. We used out of it. So, and then we added a video laryngoscopy. So as we go on these cardiac arrests and we go to intubate, that's actual vocal cords you can see right there. That's your landmark for intubation that we use. If they're having difficulties, they can actually go and you start using video where they can kind of see that site than the old manual version. So it just gives them another better tool in the toolbox if they need it. And we got that on a grant. So physical training, this is called You Don't Have a Choice Yoga. So mental health is just as important as physical health. So actually the feedback was really good from the guys. But that's one of the things still, like newer council members too, in the public, they see the guys in the gym. The guys are required by policy to PT 1 hour every single day. So they are required to do it, or they get in trouble, they get written up. So as we see people like, oh, these guys, that's part of their job. They're industrial athletes. The public, the public's rescues, all that stuff depends on their physicality. Just so does their livelihood. I mean, their body is their job. So people may not realize that, but that's 100%. Fire prevention was really hampered by COVID-19. It's kind of hard to go out and do public outreach in schools when there is no schools in session and there is no festivals or anything like that. And with council approval, we shut down fire inspections for businesses to protect our paramedics. So that's one thing that really got hampered by COVID-19. We're hoping to get out there and looking forward to YMAF and having our booth out there and interact with the public and getting that public outreach and that fire prevention message out there. So hazard fuel reduction, this was and some of these are repeats from the semi-annual report, but Oakland, we did chipper days. Really want to work on getting chipper days here in the city. We've been talking with the city about that. The Pendleton hazard fuel reduction project, we dropped a ton of trees with some of the guys in the hand crews. And this is the temporary city yard, and just had to show the young bucks I still got it, so go out and drop some trees and save the city a lot of money instead of using arborists or something like that. Toys for Yucaipa did not get impacted by COVID. We had to change what we did, but we provided 180 families, 700 children, around 3,000 toys. So that's a huge undertaking. You could see the fire station here. So we got the one lane open for the fire guys. The rest turns into an operation. So the entire, as soon as we hit Thanksgiving, Fire Station 2 turns into a factory, and it's all to provide that Toys for Yucaipa to our families here in the town. Law and public safety also took another big hit, so we definitely support Yucaipa High School. I don't know if you guys know, but one of their law and public safety classes, they actually come to the fire station, so we instruct every other Friday. So they are the primary instructors. The whole class comes over, and they actually teach on-site at the fire station. COVID wrecked that. It sounds like talking to Coach Harrison, we'll be back on site here pretty quickly for next semester, so we're looking forward to that. And they do some of their milestones or capstones, I can't remember what they call them, but they do these big exercise drills, and then those kids get funneled right into Crafton Hills College and then come out into full-time fire or law enforcement jobs. Sound the Alarm, that's another program we offer. Sound the Alarm and CERT. COVID really hampered those efforts, but we're starting those talks up right now. So what Sound the Alarm is you have just one smoke detector in your house, your odds of surviving a fire in your residence double. And then as you put more and more, it goes up. Most fatalities happen at night when you're sleeping. So we'll go out, and especially the mobile home parks, and we'll actually do the installation. The city was partnering with Red Cross. We're kind of moving to more standalone with some support from Red Cross, but we'll go out and get those smoke detectors in houses that don't have them, especially with our senior population. And the guys do it on calls. They hear the chirp or whatever. We're replacing batteries and everything just to do our due diligence. And then CERT's obviously a highly beneficial program we help train in. Crafton Hills College, like I said, we definitely support the college immensely. I sit on the Paramedic Advisory Board, the Fire Academy Advisory Board, EMT Advisory Board. And we teach, actually this week, we're teaching the wildland portion of the Fire Academy. So not myself, but some of our other folks. They go out and do the 2-week at the end of their Fire Academy. We do precept about 25% of all of their EMT hours, so out of Yucaipa Fire and Highland Fire. So for whatever reason, they just like riding out with us for the EMT side, and other departments don't like taking EMT students. But we definitely support that program. They were halted this year with COVID. They were doing some other stuff, but paramedics couldn't. So we definitely supported the paramedic program between Crafton Hills College and Victor Valley this year. We took 4 students for a total of 2,400 volunteer hours. There's no way to keep those folks out. If we do that, we won't have paramedics in the field. So those, most of those paramedics we have now are folks we trained previously through the 2 colleges. No One Left Behind is our 5K that the local union 2881 kind of partners with the city on. COVID killed that in 2020. Talking to Megan, looking forward to getting that up and running for 2021 and see how that's going to kind of look. So, all right. So significant incidents for this year. We always recap with that. Next slide. It's a great shot. Worldwide pandemic.
What a good-looking guy in the center there, huh?
Well, we just didn't know, especially then, we didn't know, and unfortunately we got thrust in the spotlight the first off in California. We're on every, so that was awesome. Mayor at the time did a good job, but the folks really handled it well. We had a pandemic plan in place prior to COVID. We had a pretty adequate supply of PPE that lasted long enough that we could adequately respond, because nobody knew at the time. Nobody knew if it was going to be, Ebola 5.0 or something like that. And we did really well through that, thankfully. So, yeah, COVID. Remote area rescues, kind of talked about this in the semi-annual, with more folks getting outside and not having the traditional stuff they could do. We did a ton more remote area rescues this last year. So that's our UTV right there, but air rescues, UTV rescues, Oakland, Crafton Hills, bike crashes, hikers, dehydration, stuff like that. So we did a ton more. People just getting outside and enjoying the outside until they have an emergency. Oak Mountain second alarm, very good aggressive stand on this. The folks actually saved the entire house. There was minimal damage inside that house, which is pretty impressive. And sorry to repeat from the semi-annual, but that fire was kept pretty much in the garage and I think an interior bathroom. So pretty impressive seeing that, and that's the save they did. And that's up on the Wildwood Canyon side. January windstorm, it wreaked havoc in the city. We normally run, 25 calls a day, and I think we ran 70-some calls that day. Structure fires, and then all the damage to people actually trapped in that home and trapped in their cars and getting hit in the head with trees and stuff like that. So it was a pretty fluke storm there, did a lot of damage. Sorensen Fire, so this was in semi-annual too. This looks pretty insignificant, but this $50,000 fire was a $450,000 save in this machine and a $5 million save in that building. So that's pretty significant when you start thinking about that. And as they grow and grow and grow, just having that immediate response there. Mobile home park fatality was one of our fire fatality for last year. We did have a fatality fire. The Los Rios Fire was a 4-alarm commercial structure fire. This is the first minute of us pulling up. So there was nobody on site, no smoke detectors, no nothing. By the time the fire was even reported, this is what we pulled up to. Very significant fire, very significant loss, that there was just no other outcome that was going to happen with that. Apple Fire, so earlier in June, July, We experienced apple fire, small portion of Yucaipa, Mile High Ranch Road, and some of the eastern border, and then some of our protectorship in Oakland. A lot of good aggressive stands here, and we skated through that fairly well and thought we were good for the year. We had our big fire, so we were kind of pumped on that. And then we had the El Dorado fire. So September 5th or 7th, about 10 in the morning, which is early for, I guess the chief here, that's pretty early for a vegetation fire to take off like this. It burned 3,200 acres in the first day. I was the initial attack IC for the first 26 hours till the team took over, and I threw everything at it. We got every VLAT in the state, so every jumbo jet in the state committed to this fire, and that fire was burning through jumbo jet retardant, and there was nothing we were going to do to stop it. So extremely aggressive initial attack, ordered everything on the planet that we could get, and it did what it was going to do. It was very resistant to suppression. That was just given the very dry fuels, the wind, very high temperatures, just everything in alignment took off. So luckily, a lot of aggressive structure defense protected thousands of homes. We did lose one residence in that fire, and day two, I don't know if you guys are super familiar with the kind of the fire behavior of it. We have this day one. Day two, we get a column collapse, so kind of like a thunder cell. It builds up. Well, the problem with thunder cells, they collapse. So downflows everywhere, and that's what happened when we came up and saw you guys with Ray. That column collapse put fire everywhere down into Yucaipa. It just does a 360 everywhere. So that's why, when I left that morning, hey, we're good. It's kind of going that way. And then when I come back up and we got people well into the interior of Yucaipa, like, what the heck. So we had a column collapse that second day. A lot of aggressive firefighting to save just thousands of homes. So kind of best case scenario is an unfortunate fire with a fatality with Charlie Morton, who we memorialized, but the rest of it couldn't have gone better. So part of that mutual aid is we do send out strike teams. Apple Fire, obviously our fire, we're going to send out a strike team. They went to the Dolan fire. We actually sent Brush Engine 552 to the Dolan fire for, I want to say, 21 days. That's up by Big Sur. So, and this is them actually firing out Big Sur. They did a ton of work there. Kind of the advantage of having the CAL FIRE guys in your local government engines. You kind of got the wildland experts there on your city engines. They get leaned on a lot. So they did a ton of firing up there. The El Dorado fire. We did go to the airport fire on in Corona, Orange County border. So we sent some immediate need support down there. And then the COVID IMT, the COVID interagency management teams, kind of how we collectively tackled COVID here in the county with all the fire department agencies supporting. And so some of just our updates and goals. We did use Homeland Security grant funds to secure some rescue tools last year. Some of those you saw. Medic Engine 553, we kept, I had that on last year's annual report, and that thing was just delayed. It was almost a 2-year build to get a 1-year build engine. We're looking at, obviously, anywhere we can improve our level of existing service, provide proposed level of service options if it's really commensurate with those values at risk. Is it going to buy us something? Is it worth it? So all fire department personnel last year went through Stop the Bleed and CPR train the trainers, so we are actually providing that to staff tomorrow. We're going to have a class, and we'll continue those classes, and we'll offer that to the community as well. We did apply for FEMA Department of Homeland Security grants. So we did apply for assistance to firefighter grants for the squad. So we asked the federal government on that grant for staffing, and then they provide, I think it's 100, 75, 50, 25 over 4 or 5 years to offset those costs. We have never been granted it. I'm sorry, that's the SAFER grant, the second one. Assist firefighter grant, we applied for radios. And then we applied for the fire prevention grant. So those are all still pending right now. The previous years were not successful on any of them. We're competing nationwide. We kind of talked about that's the out of a hospital cardiac arrests. We did get a MDC, so we got through the COVID IMT and some other stuff, we got mobile data computers basically for our fire engines. with vehicle tracking where everybody can see each other. We got those off grants successfully last year. And the video laryngoscopes, we got successfully off grants last year as well. So we did get some grant funding, not the big dollar items we were hoping for. So that's pretty much the fire department annual report, unless you have any questions.
Well, first of all, good report. You did an excellent job, very thorough. We knew this was a big year. Are there any questions or comments for the chief? John?
Thank you.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We do need a motion to approve this.
Motion to accept?
Yeah.
I'll move to accept.
Please.
I'll second. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so moving on to item number 8, I believe this is Ray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This item is the sheriff's contract amendment. As council is aware, there's a standing contract that has, I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Mayor, I don't have to recuse myself from this since I'm with the sheriff's department.
Okay.
Here's a switch.
Go ahead, Ray.
So this is an ongoing process. City has had a contract with San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department for some time and extends that contract on an annual basis through a Schedule A of resources as established by the city. This year, the increase from the Sheriff's Department is a little bit less than what was anticipated. They reduced the increase to 4%, which is appreciated. It does include the additional deputy that council approved at mid-year, and it recognizes an increase from last year in the amount of, with the personnel credit in the amount of $615,551, a net increase of $652,327. That additional deputy is, according to Chief Williams, is going to be focused on traffic and other ancillary uses to offload some of the proactive policing that's being done throughout the community. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have today. Staff's recommendation is that City Council approve and authorize the mayor to execute an amendment to the law enforcement services contract between the City of Yucaipa and the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department for a total annual service contract in an amount not to exceed $11,460,020, including additional dispatch services associated with 2 radios. And those 2 radios are to be used by Public Works Rangers and code enforcement officers, less the annual personnel credit in the amount of $615,551 for a total net contract amount of not to exceed $10,844,469 for fiscal year 2021-2022. Happy to answer any questions.
So are there any questions for staff?
Has that traffic deputy started? Yep.
That deputy would start after this contract's approved and with this budget. So.
Okay. Bob, you have something?
No.
David?
No, I'll move to approve.
All right.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I'm sorry, just for clarification, the second contract attached to your staff report is also for those radios, for the dispatch services associated with those radios. So the motion should include both contracts. My apologies.
Agreed.
All right. You good?
Agreed.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. So that takes us to item 9. Is this for me?
Yes.
Okay. The pavement management plan.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. This item is the Pavement Management Program update. As you are aware, the Pavement Management Program is used to prioritize, plan, and schedule the pavement maintenance and rehabilitation of city streets. Just to provide a little bit of background on the program itself, the Pavement Management Program was first prepared and adopted by the City Council in 1998. Since then, it's been updated annually with the completion of the annual maintenance projects, and it is also recalibrated every 5 years. And in that recalibration effort, there's some testing, analysis, and measurements that are completed by a company or a consultant that the city contracts with. The last recalibration was completed in 2018 and approved by the City Council in May of that year, May of 2018. The next recalibration is scheduled for 2023. As part of the recalibration, the pavement testing and analysis components, the measurements are recorded through ultrasound and other test measurements every 100 feet along every centerline mile of city streets. Those measurements, they do measure several different things: the surface distress of the pavement, the roughness, and also the subsurface conditions. Those measurements are used to establish a pavement condition index, or PCI. That PCI has a value of 0 to 100, where 100 is a newly paved street. And just to share some more information regarding the PCI, the information on the screen kind of identifies or describes the different condition of the PCI range. As you can see, a PCI of 85 to 100 is considered excellent or like new. And down to, at the bottom, you have a PCI of 0 to 40 is considered poor, where a street will require full reconstruction. As I mentioned, in 2018, as part of that recalibration effort, that report that was reviewed and approved by City Council in 2018 did provide some useful information. We did ask the consultant at the time to break down the PCI for the different classification of streets. And as you can see, there are 3 classification of streets: arterial streets, collector, and residential. On this chart, you can see the PCI rating for each of those, and also the backlog. The backlog is actually the percentage of streets with a PCI under 40, or the streets that fall within that 0 to 40 rating. At the time, the average PCI, citywide PCI, was 64 in 2018. And as you can see on the backlog, the residential streets had the highest backlog number at 20%. As part of the 2018 recalibration, City Council did adopt certain thresholds or goals for both the PCI and the backlog. Those are included on this chart. The backlog threshold or goal for residential streets was established at 12%, and as you can see on the previous chart, the testing and the measurements in 2018 showed that the residential backlog at 20. So for the thresholds, there's a City Council established a goal or a threshold of PCI goal of 66 for arterial streets, 65 for collector streets, and 64 for residential. I do want to point out the 2 notes on the bottom. The national standard PCI is 60 or greater, while the PCI national average is somewhere between 60 and 65. The purpose of the annual PMP program update is actually twofold. The first one is to update the City Council on the pavement maintenance and rehabilitation projects that have been completed over the past 5 years pursuant to the recalibration efforts. In this case, the recalibration completed in 2013 and 2018. And also, the second purpose is for City Council to review the projects that are being recommended for the next 5-year period as a result of the 2018 recalibration. The draft PMP update was provided under separate cover, and it included several different maps. The first map included in that report is the map that shows the streets that have been completed over the last 5 years. And as you can see, there are quite a number of streets that were either rehabilitated or maintained through a microsurface or slurry treatment over the last 5 years. As the map shows, those street segments are all over the city. This map here shows the streets that have been approved for completion in the current fiscal year. These are the streets that were approved last year as part of last year's PMP update. As far as the funding for next fiscal year for the pavement management program, there are several different sources of funding. This chart or this information on the screen shows the various sources of funding, which include the solid waste franchise fee, Measure I sales tax, the Prop 42 gas tax, SB1, the interagency paving agreements. Those are agreements between the city and the various utility companies where we partner with them to complete, to rehabilitate certain streets where they have done utility work. And then we have the general fund contribution. The first line, the $200,000, is an annual proposed $200,000 contribution from the general fund. The second line of $300,000 is the general fund, $300,000 in funding from the general fund balance. And then $10,000, which has been an annual allocation, and that's the intent of that is to build or repair a curb, gutter, and sidewalk that supports the pavement and asphalt streets. As you can see, the total amount available for allocation is just over $3.1 million, and the total amount being proposed for next fiscal year is almost $2.9 million, which will leave a projected year-end fund balance of approximately $265,000. As far as the list of streets that are being proposed for next fiscal year, those streets are prioritized using the Measure I, or the PCI from the 2018 recalibration, and several other factors that are listed on this screen. The street classification, traffic volume, the adjacent land use or zoning, or economic development opportunities, projects that are scheduled around planned CIP projects, such as street widening projects, and also street segments that are either included in this list or being deferred for 1 year due to utility companies having planned underground projects. So those streets that are being proposed for completion next fiscal year are shown in this next map. And we are proposing a couple different types of treatments. The streets that are listed in orange are, we're proposing the microsurface treatment. In purple is an edge mill and overlay. And we actually have, there's one, you can't even see it on the screen, there's one short segment of street in green that is being proposed for a pulverize and pave. And as you can see, the majority of these streets are residential, and the intent here is to try to bring that backlog number down for residential streets. This next map shows the streets that are being proposed to be completed over the next 5-year period, which includes the 2 remaining years in the current 5-year recalibration schedule and the 3 years for the next recalibration schedule. And I do want to point out that in 2 years, when we do our next recalibration and testing, the years 3, 4, and 5 on this map may be adjusted slightly based on that recalibration effort. As far as the budget, the fiscal impact for the next fiscal year. There is approximately $2.3 million that's being recommended for street maintenance and rehabilitation projects. About $230,000 is being proposed for street patching, crack sealing, or striping, or other type of work that supports the rehabilitation and maintenance projects. $30,000 for street drainage repairs, which will enhance or extend the life of these asphalt streets. $50,000 for uptown alley improvements, and $50,000 identified as a local match for federal and state grants that may come along next fiscal year that support the pavement management program. If the proposed street list for next fiscal year is approved, staff is proposing to combine the current year's approved street list with the next year's list into one program. And what we found is that by combining 2 years or two years into one program and having larger quantities, we do receive more competitive bids, which result in an overall cost savings. And perhaps that may be able, or may allow us to use that cost savings to add additional streets for next fiscal year as part of the program. The draft PMP before you tonight identifies a total of $11.4 million over the next 5 years for pavement-related projects, and that doesn't include any of the grants or other partnership opportunities with other agencies. With that, staff is recommending that City Council review and approve the fiscal year 21-22 PMP update and approve the recommended pavement maintenance and rehabilitation projects for fiscal year 21-22. That concludes my report, and staff is available for questions.
All right, so are there any questions for staff? Go ahead, John.
I have a couple. The PSI testing, when they go through to figure out the different ratings on the streets, is that just selected streets, or do they do all the streets at one time?
They do all the streets at
maybe
one
not
time.
at one time, but
Yeah, they do all the streets at one time, and it's divided into segments, and as I mentioned, they record those measurements every 100 feet.
so it's a pretty lengthy process then. Now, when it comes to, this may be a little bit off topic, when it comes to the repaving of an area, do we have anything in place that would prevent, say, construction in an area from digging into an area that's been completely repaved? So when you repave a street, we give them the option, if they're doing construction in that area, they get done in that area what they need to do before it's been repaved. And then there's a certain time frame, let's say bar an emergency, that they can't dig and tear up our brand new street for a period of, let's say, 2 years or something of that nature, so the street isn't all of a sudden back to the way it was. Now it's been compromised because we just spent all that money putting that in.
Yes, we do. We do have a moratorium in our construction standards. We share our street lists and maps with the various utility companies at our monthly meetings, and our standard does indicate that if a street has been paved, then there is a moratorium for trenching for a 5-year period. And if it's been microsurface or just surface sealed, then it's 3 years.
Okay, thank you.
Does the cost presented here reflect any anticipated increases in material costs over the next 5 years, or is this expected to stay true over the next? I know right now material costs just seem to be very high. Are these costs that you're presenting to us taking into account any anticipated increases in material costs?
Yes, the unit costs that are used to determine these estimated costs, they are adjusted every year, and were adjusted based on the current market.
Do we ever, whenever we send out the van with that real cool device on the bottom there, do we ever go out and drive these streets to see if, in fact, the information that device is capturing is in fact valid? We've got some really, really bad roads in Yucaipa, and they're usually residential. A lot of the residential streets are getting ignored. California Street between E and H, the wash, I have been complaining about the striping on that and the paving on that for 2-3 years now. And it seems like arterial roads get a lot more attention than our residential streets do. And I just wonder if we ever go out and drive to validate the fact that this van is in fact capturing data that is reflective of what the condition really is of the street. Just a question.
Yeah, we do. We actually receive a computer model, a GPS computer model for the information when it's collected, and then each year before confirming and drafting the street list for your review, we do go out and visually inspect the streets that are being proposed for that year, and the ones that are being proposed for the next 5 years. So we do go out and visually inspect these streets.
So before we contract with these out, you're actually driving them and reviewing? I mean, obviously, right?
Yes, and each one of those measurements also includes a photo of the area where the measurement was taken.
Okay. Anything else? Bob, you have anything else? No? David? Good. Well, it was a good report. I know it's a lot of work to do, and I know we have some catching up to do in the residential, and it looks to me like you're focusing on the residential more this time around.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, one last thing, just for my own peace of mind. Should prices jump substantially, I know asphalt being petroleum-based, we're seeing a huge increase in, staff will come back to council should something change and we're not looking at, or we're not gonna make another huge expenditure based on this one approval right now, is that right? Or is this for the next 5 years regardless of prices?
Yes, the next step, once the list is approved, we will go out to bid and seek competitive bids and then come back to council with a recommendation to award. And if there are any increase in those costs, we will present those to council.
And council gets an opportunity to look at this every year. So it may be, if we see significant increases in material costs, that next year the list of streets gets reduced a little bit, given that we have a budget to maintain. So.
Right. So we see this every year. This item. All right. So with that, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion that we approve item number 9, the pavement management program update.
I'll second.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so that takes us to item number 10, and is this Jason?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. The item before you is for the Geofence Automated License Plate Reader, or ALPR program, Phase 4. In 2011, the City Council approved a strategic plan for citywide video monitoring that included the use of video surveillance cameras around the city. And in 2015, to augment that plan, the council embraced the use of automated license plate reader cameras in addition to the video surveillance cameras. Since 2015, the city has installed 16 automated license plate readers at various locations around the city. And the cameras have been proven to be an essential tool for the Yucaipa Police Department. The cameras are used both proactively and forensically in investigations. They can instantly alert deputies to inbound and outbound stolen vehicles, APBs, and vehicle-related law enforcement alerts. And they can also be used in forensic investigations to identify when criminals came into or left the city after a crime has been committed. The cameras have been instrumental in recovery of many stolen vehicles and are frequently used in investigations that lead to arrests. City staff recently met with Yucaipa PD to identify the most appropriate location for the ALPR program, Phase 4. And Yucaipa PD recommended installing the ALPR cameras the next phase to monitor northbound and southbound traffic at the intersection of Sand Canyon Road and Campus Drive near Crafton Hills College. This intersection is located, I was going to say arterial, but after that conversation, I'm not sure. It's one of the most well-traveled streets left that's not monitored by the ALPR cameras, with the exception of what will soon be the roundabouts in Calamasa, and we have plans for that later. Vigilant Solutions manufactures the cameras and has performed all of the previous installations throughout the city. And the ALPR cameras will be installed on city-owned poles and will require power, so some electrical work is required. Staff's recommendation is that City Council approve and authorize the city manager to execute the design proposal and statement of work for the purchase and installation of automatic license plate readers at the intersection of Sand Canyon Road and Campus Drive with Vigilant Solutions in the amount of $57,918. And that they find that the public interest will not be best served by a formal proposal process, waive the formal solicitation of proposals and qualifications, and award the purchase of the geofence ALPR program Phase 4 based on the proposal submitted by Vigilant Solutions, and approve an allocation in the amount of $10,000 for the installation of electrical service and other soft costs required for this project. There's currently $150,000 allocated in the fiscal year 2021 police services budget for geofence ALPR program Phase 5, allocating the amount of $67,918 for the purchase and installation of the ALPR cameras and the electrical work. We'll leave a remaining balance in the amount of $82,082. This concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, so are there any questions for staff? Justin, you have anything? Bob?
Money well spent, as far as I'm concerned.
I agree.
It's been a great program.
John, do you have anything?
No questions? I'll move to.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement. I think it's a great program. I know we asked for the stats on that one time, and I think we had, what, 99 hits in the first few months or our first year or something.
Actually, and I think we did share those with you, but I have to, if you don't mind, share a very quick story, and I think council may recall this, and maybe Captain would clarify my comments if I'm off at all, but we've taken it to a new level in the sheriff's department recently, where we have a staff member that on several occasions has responded to a red flag from the ALPR system and then followed it from the stolen vehicle from video camera to video camera to video camera until it didn't go past the next video camera and targeted a specific neighborhood, targeted the deputies in a specific neighborhood and found the stolen car on several occasions and made arrests. So it's really being used well by the department.
So when we write our opposition letter to what the state of California is doing, can we cite statistics? Can we cite
Absolutely.
our own
specific
city
cases, yeah.
statistics?
Yeah.
Okay. I have a feeling that's coming, so. Anyways, great program. With that, is there a motion to approve?
I do.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Thanks, Jason. Thank you. All right, moving right along to item number 11, and I believe this is for me.
Yes, thank you. This item is for equipment purchase, replacement playground equipment for Flag Hill Veterans Memorial Park Playground. Over the last 3 years, playground equipment has been replaced at several city parks, including Wildwood City Park, Avenue I Park, and Bryant Glen Park. The existing playground equipment at 7th Street Park is over 20 years old and needs to be replaced. Portions of that equipment was closed to the public in March of this year due to its deteriorating condition. Staff is recommending that this equipment be replaced. Quotes were requested from several different vendors. 3 were received, and after reviewing the quotes, staff feels that the model proposed by Miracle Playground equipment is the most suitable for 7th Street Park, especially after considering the play features and the footprint for the proposed equipment and the existing playground. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. We're discussing the playground equipment at Flag Hill Park, not 7th Street Park. Thank you. We've already replaced the equipment at 7th Street Park. Staff is recommending that council approve the acquisition of the replacement playground equipment for Miracle Recreation Equipment Company in the amount of $43,098.92. The fiscal year 2020-2021 budget includes $60,309 for replacement playground equipment, so there's sufficient funding available to accommodate staff's recommendation. If approved, staff will return to council with a recommendation regarding the installation of the proposed playground equipment. If council approves the purchase of this equipment, we will request proposals for the installation based on the specific equipment, and we will return with a recommendation regarding that installation. So with that, staff recommends that City Council approve and authorize the city manager or his designee to execute the acquisition of replacement playground equipment for Flag Hill Veterans Memorial Park from Miracle Recreation Equipment in the amount of $43,098.92. And that concludes my report.
All right, so are there any questions for staff?
Has our Park and Rec Commission looked at this or approved this so far?
Not this specific piece of equipment, no.
This is a pretty big deal for us, for them. What's the process like as far as, because I know my appointee on the Park and Rec Commission would be happy to see this and sort of approve this, and so they don't have a say in this at all?
They typically review the concept plans and plans for a new park, and not for replacement equipment.
Okay. Justin, you have anything? David?
Do we have a ballpark figure on the installation costs? And would it come out of the 17,000? Or is that a
Yes,
different fund?
Yes, it would. It's proposed to come out of the remaining balance from that, and the last piece of equipment that we installed last year was a little bigger than this, and it was about $14,000.
Okay, so it's getting close.
Yes.
Okay. And we have some other backup in case something happens.
Yeah, one of the reasons why we wanted to purchase the equipment first is that once we have the specifics, we get more competitive bids because we're actually requesting proposals to install a specific piece of equipment, not 3 or 4 different options.
Okay,
We feel we'll get more competitive proposals doing it this way.
Okay. John, you have anything?
I'd have one question. In the process of looking at replacing this equipment, was there any thought to putting in any kind of ADA for special needs folks for this equipment at all?
You know, that did come up. I know that we have installed ADA equipment at other parks, at 7th Street Park. And in order to do that, we need to evaluate the other things such as access from the parking lot. So in this case, because there will be other improvements required, that we didn't go any further with that.
Thank you.
All
I'll
right.
move to approve purchase.
All right, so we have a motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so that takes us into announcements, takes us to announcements. Anybody have anything? Justin, you have anything? Bob?
Just that our Music and Arts Festival starts on the 7th of May, and I expect that the whole world will come out. We're very happy about that, very excited about that.
David, do you have anything? No. John?
No, sir.
All right, so we do have a closed session. I'll turn this over to the attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. We've got on tonight's closed session agenda a discussion regarding potential litigation regarding assessor parcel number 0301-021-09-10-11. The city's negotiators, Mr. Casey, the negotiating parties with respect to the property at issue are Victor and Carol Theotig. We also have conference with a real property negotiator regarding the property at 34282 Yucaipa Boulevard. City's negotiators, Mr. Casey, and the city-owned property, and under negotiation is disposition of that property. The third item is conference with labor negotiator regarding Yucaipa City Employees Association. The city's negotiator is Mr. Casey. And then the final item is conference with labor negotiator regarding the unrepresented management, supervisory, and confidential employees. Again, the negotiator is Mr. Casey, and we do not expect a reportable action on any of these items.
All right, with that, we will now close the city council meeting.